Hello, welcome to this week's webinar. I'm Dr. Wendy Lee White. This is Tune Into Your Body, the webinar that discusses the 5 essentials for you to be a healthier human being. And this is number 6. We've been doing this for a month and a half now. Welcome. And I want to today discuss balance. Balance to me is about the nervous system and how it affects everything in your body. The fact that your nervous system, the state that your nervous system is in, has an effect on your immune system, your digestion, your reproduction, your mood, your emotions, your ability to think, the way your bowels move, everything. So that's what we're talking about today. Now, we're trying something new today. Typically for the last 5 weeks, you've just seen my face, and today, hopefully what you're seeing is a PowerPoint slide as the majority of what you're looking at, and then my face in a little square. So for those of you who are attending, please hop into chat and just confirm that that is indeed what you do see, that you're seeing my face as well as the little PowerPoint slides. Also, while you're over in chat, please do say hi. Let me know that you're here. Let me know why you're tuning in. Why you're tuning in helps me to understand what I would like to cover and what else would be good to present to you, to let you know. So thanks, Joe, for raising your hand. It's nice to see you. So today is balance. So for those of you who have not joined us for the first 5, this webinar series is designed for everyday people to understand what is it that people do to get healthier in life. For those of you who know about my practice, you know that I enjoy working with everyday people. General people who just want to feel better, who don't want to have a headache most days, or not have a regular digestive system, or not sleep on a regular basis. My medicine that I practice is about everyday choices and how each and everything we can do, we can choose in our day-to-day lives has an impact on the whole spider web that is our being. So we have talked about nourish, which was food, hydration, and supplementation. We've talked about movement, which is what other people call exercise, but that to me doesn't feel good to use that word, so I love the word movement. Movement focuses on empowering us to feel good and be proud of what our bodies can do. Actually, the first session was an intro. Then we talked about nourish and movement. The third or fourth session was choose. We talked about sleep, minimizing your toxic exposure in life, setting up your life so that your body functions better. I often say it's like translating your values to your calendar. If family and nature are 2 of your highest priority values, how do they reflect in the amount of time that you're spending in nature and with your family? So the 4th topic that we talked about last week was connect. That was with yourself, with others, and with something greater. The connection with yourself, I discussed the difference between being alone and being lonely. I encouraged each and every one of us to wrap our arms around ourselves and give ourselves a big hug. I ended that session asking us to, in our mind, list top 3 things that we were grateful for. And then I posed the question, how many of you listed an attribute about yourself as something that you were grateful for? I'm grateful for my strength, for my resilience, for my empathic nature, for my big heart. How many of us appreciate ourselves for all that we have? So today is the last of the 5 essentials for healthier everyday people, and it is balance. Balance is all about the nervous system and how it connects to everything else in the body. So before we talk about the nervous system, let's kind of define some things and explore all the external and internal factors that influence our sense of nervous system or sense of balance. And PowerPoint says no. There we go. So what is stress? Think about that. Think about what that answer is for you. Do you find violence stressful? Do you find economics stressful? Do you find relationships stressful? Do you find the idea of the shoulds of the world? I should exercise, I should X, Y, or Z. What is it that you consider stressful? Is that an outside influence? It's one of those shoulds, it's someone else's rules. Is that causing you stress? Or are they internal rules of that gut feel that you know is right and you're working to align life to match that? Stress can be positive, negative. If someone gets married, for example, that's incredibly stressful. It's a good stress, but stress is anything that asks your body to respond and adjust. When we moved from Connecticut to Oregon just under 4 years ago now, while it was something good, we wanted it, we were excited, it was incredibly stressful. Using the GPS to find the grocery store every time you needed to go out, meeting new people, trying to remember everyone's names because you have people from here and there and you're trying to keep them all straight. Good stress, but stress. Stress is a fact of nature. And because it affects all aspects of our being, it's important that we do one of 2 things. And we will talk about that towards the end. We talked about all these causes. So here's something for those of you who like to do research and who like to play. You cannot read this at all, and that's fine. My point is there is a scale called the Holmes-Rahe Stress Inventory. The link is down here at stress.org/Holmes-Rahe-stress-inventory. And basically, you go through and you add up the number of points of the stressful things that have been in your life in the last period of time. And it just gives you an idea of how much your body is expected to be resilient and to respond and react based on what's happening in your world. What causes stress? So in our world currently, it's modern day stimulation. It's a global pandemic. It's nationwide violence. It's unfair treatment of people who deserve better. Modern day stimulation. But another way to view it from the fact that we're animals and we're biologically designed brilliantly, we respond this way for a reason. Think about, look to your right and imagine there's a tiger. What are you going to do? Your heart rate is going to speed up. Your muscles are going to get full circulation so that you can fight it, which would be dumb, or run. That's our sympathetic nervous system. That is when we are in defense mode. We need to save ourselves. It serves a purpose. With that design, however, if we're presented with a lion, hopefully in the best of outcomes, it is an acute issue. It has a timeline. And so we run from the lion, we're safe, our body gets to relax. However, in modern day stimulation, does the lion ever go away? So we are wired for stress because it is life-saving. It serves a purpose. Don't ever wish that we could shut it off. That would be dangerous. If we weren't always vigilant on a subconscious level for things that could hurt us, we would get run over by a bus within the next week. If you're not out and about in the streets, maybe that wouldn't happen. But my point is, our bodies are brilliant. We're not trying to manipulate them. We're not trying to override their wisdom. We're trying to understand them so that then we can work with why our bodies are so brilliant and how we can support them to respond appropriately for the lives that we live right now. So you'll often hear, I'll get the hang of this today, I promise. You often hear about the stages or the sections of the nervous system. Now, for those of you who are new to me, go over to my YouTube channel, search for Tune Into Your Body or Dr. Wendy Lee White, Wendy Lee being one word, and look up my nervous system YouTube video. You'll see actually the snippet of the video is me with my arms in the air, and they're kind of blurry because I'm waving them. Why am I waving them? That's how I convey that fight or flight sympathetic nervous system stress response. The lion is about to attack. It's like that, ah! That's my fight or flight. That's my sympathetic nervous system. Remember all that physiologically happens during sympathetic nervous system. Your heart rate increases, your oxygenation of your muscles increase, you're ready to fight, to run, to scheme. So everything is super active and upregulated. Your blood pressure will go up because it's trying to really get the blood circulating out to all of your muscles. So it serves a purpose. Counter to that is that parasympathetic nervous system, the hanging out in a comfy chair on a 60-degree sunny day with a slight breeze, the lake is still. That is parasympathetic nervous system. And what our body does when we're in parasympathetic nervous system is it really doesn't have to have all of this blood and energy into our extremities, our arms and legs for fighting or running. It just needs to have energy and circulation in our core. So think of that in our respiration, nice and deep, full lung breaths, no rush, nice and slow. In our digestion, for digestion, absorption, detoxification, elimination. Reproduction for women has a stronger propensity to be healthy when we're in parasympathetic nervous system. That's when our body can do maintenance, healing. It's when our brains can do creative, making connections that otherwise wouldn't be as obvious. That is the relaxation, the safety part of our parasympathetic nervous system. If you eat a very large meal that needs a lot of digestion and absorption and detoxification and elimination, if you eat it when you are in sympathetic nervous system mode, there's the tiger, the lion. What do you think happens to that food? Feel free to jump into chat and give me a little comment if you feel like it. If you're not that comfy with Zoom or if you're calling in by phone, perfectly acceptable, that's fine. If you do want to raise your hand, I can unmute you and you can discuss your response if that's something you're comfortable with as well. No pressure, just want you to participate at the level that makes you happy, that makes you feel included and connected, because I see you all there and I'm happy that you're here and I want you to get out of this what you need to hear today. So back to that really large meal, but you're in sympathetic nervous system. The answer is you don't digest, absorb, detoxify, or eliminate super well. If you're my patient listening to this, you know that on your treatment plan is the recommendation to take 3 to 5 deep belly breaths before every meal. Think about that. In doing so, we are slowing ourselves down, we're increasing mindfulness, we're encouraging deep, slow belly breaths, which helps us switch from sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, to parasympathetic nervous system, safety, rest and digest. You're more likely to digest, absorb, detoxify, and eliminate more effectively, more completely, if you're near or in parasympathetic nervous system. Another way to say that is you are more likely to be nourished when eating if you can be closer to that rest and digest parasympathetic nervous system, that place of safety. I'm going to pause here just as for those of you who just joined us. This is Tune Into Your Body, my weekly webinar. I am Dr. Wendy Lee White, licensed naturopathic doctor, nutritionist, and educator. And Tune Into Your Body is designed to help convey the 5 essential habits of healthier everyday people. Day-to-day choices that each and every one of you can make that can contribute to your health rather than take it away. The last state that's on this slide that you can see, we've covered the rest and digest and the fight or flight. The last one is freeze. We used to think that fight, flight, or freeze came within the same category of sympathetic nervous system. There are now researchers out there, Stephen Porges, Thomas Lynch, who are really teasing out freeze. And they say that actually our parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest, is only part of our parasympathetic nervous system. The other side of the coin of the parasympathetic nervous system is freeze or overwhelm. It's still a powering down situation, but in the rest and digest, it's powering down because we're safe. In the freeze, it's powering down because life is too much. We're curling up in a ball and we're shutting down, not because we're safe, but because our sympathetic nervous system couldn't be there anymore and we had to curl up in a ball. Rest and digest, parasympathetic nervous system, safety. Fight or flight, sympathetic nervous system. Freeze, parasympathetic nervous system. Overwhelm, shut down, can't do it. I'm going to pause here because this is an important piece and it's so incredibly timely this week. We've talked about, from a nervous system standpoint, how whichever state you find yourself in these 3 main nervous system states, it affects the rest of your physiology. If you have a tendency towards high blood pressure, not all cases of high blood pressure are due to sympathetic dominance, to fight or flight dominance, but many can be. If someone finds themselves in a situation of long-term chronic stress, that is why physiologically it can contribute to poor health. Now, we've talked about some of the reasons why we can be stressed. We talked about that in the beginning today. What I didn't mention there, what I really want to focus on here, is people for whom the world is not easy. People of color, people of different ethnicities, people who have varying gender identities, sexual preferences. For those marginalized people, their lives, baseline, are up here. Sympathetic nervous system dominance. fear, microaggressions, unfair worlds. How frustrating is that when you feel like you're not being treated fairly, when you're not being seen for who you are and not valued for who you are? Imagine that level of stress from the time you were a little kid. So when we look at epidemiological data and we consider the rates of diabetes, the rates of heart disease, the rates of high blood pressure, and we look at that data based on comparisons of marginalized peoples, if someone is to make an assumption that those marginalized peoples are just unhealthy due to the color of their skin or their sexual preference or their gender identity, instead of acknowledging the impact that our sympathetic nervous system has on our health. Talk about injustice. So I think that's an important part. I know you didn't come here for this. Our whole world right now, this is in the forefront of our brains. And I think today's talk discussing nervous system and how it impacts physiology was a perfect time for me to just make that point. It might not have been something that you've thought about. And when you hear a newscaster or a headline that categorizes people based on genetics or skin color or ethnicity, just filter that into your head of, I wonder how much chronic stress based on discrimination has to do with that data. Thank you for listening. I think that's an incredibly important point. So, stress's effects on the body. Sure, we escaped the lion. Phew! However, 75 to 90% of doctors' visits can be linked to this sympathetic nervous system dominance. How sad is that? When I listen to people discussing our current pandemic and saying, oh, just wait for the vaccine, just wait for the drug, all I can think is, no, don't wait for any external thing. Focus on the power that you and I and every one of us have to make choices, to make ourselves more vital, more resilient. That's what we need to take action on and focus on. We don't have to wait for the magic bullet. We are our own magic bullets. Stress's effect on the body. We already talked about a lot of the digestive symptoms because I see that so much in my patients with indigestion or gas or bloating or dysbiosis and gas and diarrhea and constipation and all of that. We also see sleeping difficulties, menstrual irregularities, diabetes and cardiovascular disease, autoimmune diseases can be exacerbated. I have a student in one of my classes online who has not really been able to come to class because her endometriosis has been flaring outrageously, and it's really, she can't tie it to anything else other than the level of stress that our world is allowing her to feel right now. Headaches, all of these things can be tied back to the physiology of stress. So what do, right? This whole webinar series is about, we are not powerless. You have the power to make choices all day long, every day. And those of you who work with me know that this doesn't mean that your whole day is torturous. It just is incremental, small changes that can make such a big impact. So we're going to talk about self-care and lifestyle management. First of all, one of the biggest hurdles in our culture is really acknowledging that we're worth it. We are worth the effort. We are worth the time, the energy, the love, no matter what size, shape, age, gender, color, preferences, We are all worthy of being cared for in the best way possible. If you're interested, the Cleveland Clinic on their website has a lot of information about stress management, emotional health, and a lot of self-image work. There's two parts for natural therapies for stress management. The first part is stop overfilling your bucket. Decrease overstimulation. Many patients in our culture come to me with crazy toxin, stress, etc. filled lives, and they just want a handful of supplements that are going to offset that crazy life. And it just doesn't work super well that way. So the first step is to stop overfilling your nervous system and decrease the overstimulation. As we're doing that, because this is the world we live in and we can't stop a pandemic, the second is to drain some of the fluid from your bucket if that you're overfilling and try to soothe your system. So stop overfilling your bucket to decrease overstimulation. I'm not going to read all of these, but here are some for you to look at as I'm talking. Overall, it's just about mindfully controlling your life. I understand that that statement can be coming from a really privileged place. I am blessed not to have to work 3 jobs, manage several young kids at home. So I understand that the slowing down life's pace, the time management, the control of your life only goes so far for some people. I hear that. My perspective on that is we can find something that we can control. Even if it's simply taking a very deep breath before we change in any transition of the world. If we're going to go to the bathroom, we take very deep breaths in that transition. That is a time for us to say, oh, I can pause, try to soothe, take a deep breath. We don't all have major room in our lives for control, but we can always find something that we have the power over. Slowing down, adjusting our schedules, disconnecting from technology so that our nervous systems aren't already ramped up, get incredibly ramped up. Prioritize self-care, feed your soul. That might be 15 minutes a day, 1 hour a week, 1 day a month, 1 weekend a quarter, 1 week a year. You get the picture, right? Continuing the, that's supposed to say number 1, stop overfilling your bucket. Continuing on that realm with stop overfilling your bucket is exercise. When done properly, the exercise that works for your individual body, that should say movement, for your individual body is not a stressor. If you're a blood group A and you're doing high intensity and someone's screaming at you to push harder and push harder, for a blood group A, that would be stress and that wouldn't help you drain and stop overfilling your bucket. It would actually contribute to filling your bucket. And then of course we always talk about food, so I won't go into that anymore. The second piece, the first piece is try not to get so overstimulated. That's the first part, adjust life so that you're less overstimulated. And the second part is try to drain your bucket, try to soothe, nourish your system in whatever works best for you. Sometimes that might be plant medicine and adaptogenic herbs or adrenal support, homeopathy. It might be adjusting your diet so that you get what you need with protein, carbohydrates, fat, fiber. It can be physical body work. I do craniosacral therapy when I can lay my hands on someone. That is amazingly restorative for the nervous system. Energy work can be restorative. Any prayer, mindfulness, relaxation, biofeedback, all of these things can help soothe our system. As we continue to work on our exposure and minimize the things that stress us out, we can continue to soothe so that we're trying to always find safety and comfort and minimize that fight or flight stress response. When we do that, when we soothe our nervous systems, we decrease the likelihood that we're going to have chronic disease concerns based on that stress. Diabetes, heart disease, cardiovascular issues, headaches, migraines, autoimmune flares, endometriosis. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Remember, 75 to 90% of doctors' visits can be tied back to stress. I want you to live differently. I want you to be mindful of what you do have choices over so that you know that you can make choices throughout each day, every day, to minimize the risks of your being unhealthy later. Another better way to say that is you can make choices every single day throughout the week that can increase the likelihood that you are more resilient, more vital, healthier, stronger, more clear thinking, symptom-free. That's what I want for every single human being. I want us to know that that is attainable, having faith in our bodies, and having the skills to tune in to hear what your body needs and be able to respond appropriately. Every one of you is worth this. We are all valued as human beings. Every one of us is worth the effort to live well and live long. Thank you all for joining me. This has been Tune Into Your Body. I'm Dr. Wendy Lee White, licensed naturopathic doctor, nutritionist, and educator. This is a weekly webinar, Thursdays, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. This concludes the original discussion of the 5 essentials for you to be healthier every day. What that means is I'm looking for suggestions. What would you like to hear for this 30-minute weekly webinar? What topics do you want to hear my perspective on? What topics do you need support with? I am happy to dedicate a weekly webinar to the topic of your choice. You just have to let me know. Send me an email, send me a message through Charm if you're a patient, post on Facebook, Instagram, anywhere you can find me. You have access to me anytime. Reach out. What do you want to hear about? Okay, signing off. Thank you all for attending, and I hope to see you next week. Take care.